Okay, well, thank you very much for coming to the talk today. I want to talk today about staying human in the age of AI, cultivating essential human skills, and why I think this is important will become clear as my talk progresses. By way of introduction, I want to start off with this quote that I read a couple of years back from David Brooks, which really inspired me. AI will force us humans to double down on those talents and skills that only humans possess. The most important thing about AI may be that it shows us what it can't do and so reveals who we are and what we have to offer. So that quote really resonated with me, and I began to think, what are these human skills that are becoming more important? So the purpose of this talk is really to think about what AI cannot do and what essential human skills and attributes have become more important in the age of AI. I don't think most of these attributes and capacities aren't really new, except for perhaps the AI ones. But most of these other capacities are not new, but they've become more important because of AI. What tasks do we want to remain human? So AI might be able to do some things, but we want to keep control of those. So it's these capacities that will become more important for us and our students as AI keeps growing. So why is this interest in these human skills? Well, generative AI can write any type of text, and agentic AI, although it's not with us yet, there are still AI agents that do tasks for us. So if we have AI doing writing any type of text and AI agents doing any type of tasks, what does that leave for us? What can AI not do at the moment? There's also a greater awareness of the workplace, and people are concerned about AI taking our jobs. Although I think that's the least thing we've got to worry about. I think it's important for us to have a desire to stay in the loop. We realize that AI is important, that it's becoming more important, more effective. It's taking on more complex tasks. We want to stay in the loop. Students' anxiety is a big thing. I'm getting a lot of students as I advise students, as a student advisor, I'm getting students who want to change their major, and I keep saying things like, um, what what's a good major that I can do that's AI proof? And I'll talk more about that later on. And there's concern about losing our humanness, that we're becoming machine-like. So Emmy Martin wrote recently in an article that the question isn't which majors AI will spare. This is about when students are anxious about which major should they do that's AI proof. It's the question is which parts of any job still require a human. And John Behrens in the Emmy Martin article says it's important to understand what AI can and cannot do within your specialized work, task by task, not field by field. Develop the skills that remain stubbornly human. So we're going to touch on some of these now. Critical thinking, communication, creativity, they keep coming up over and over again, and the ability to read a room. Ethan Mullock, I just finished reading his book. What's it called? Co-intelligence, really, really vital book to read. And he talks about these things called just me tasks. And these are tasks that AI can't do very well. So therefore we want to do them, or they're tasks that we want to remain human. So things like synthesizing ambiguous information into a decision, leading a team through uncertainty, negotiating, deciding what's important, resolving conflict, anticipating clients' needs. I'm not sure if AI can do that. Persuading other people to support your vision, creating a sense of belonging or community, showing empathy, compassion, inspiring, motivating, determining what constitutes a good outcome, expressing personal beliefs, values, and identity. So these are all things that AI struggles to do, or we want to remain human. These are tasks that we want to keep doing. Salman Khan talks about durable skills when he in the reference it's the references to a TED talk he gave recently. I think it was a TED talk, maybe it was just a YouTube video where he talks about the Khan TED Institute, which is a new university that's going to open up very soon. It's going to have a big impact on everyone. It's based on the Khan Institute, TED Talks, and who are the guys that do the TOEFL in America? I forget who they are. And so those three guys, those three organizations, in collaboration with Google, Microsoft, and Accenture, have created this new university and this new course. And the courses are very much influenced by industry, and they have identified, Salman Khan identifies collaboration, community, not sure what that one is, creativity and communication as being these vital skills. The World Economic Forum has some really nice lists about core skills in 2025. So I think we can learn a lot from this. I'm not going to read this list out. You can have a quick skim of it. But there's things that keep coming up over and over again. I think number 2, resilience, flexibility, and agility, very key. Creative thinking, number 4. And number 8, curiosity, very, very important areas there. And they identify, other core skills in 2025 and the top fastest growing skills by 2030. Again, creative thinking, resilience, flexibility, agility, curiosity. Interestingly, communication is not on either of these lists. So I find that quite interesting that they didn't think that communication was one of the key skills. I came across this list a couple of weeks ago in an article by Anderson and Rainey. And to be honest, if I had have come across this article, I probably wouldn't have bothered creating my own list because their list is pretty good. Their list is pretty comprehensive. In their list of key human skills that we need to take forward, curiosity and the capacity to learn, decision-making, problem solving, innovative thinking, creativity, social and emotional intelligence, the capacity and willingness to think deeply about complex concepts, trust in widely shared norms and values, confidence in humans' native abilities, empathy, mental well-being, sense of agency. Kevin Jiang talked about agency in his plenary. I think agency is key. I think it was a Ken Highland quote, the importance of agency, sense of identity, and metacognition. So an amazing list there. And then I generated my own list, which I turned into a framework. And I'm going to talk about these. So I've come up with this capacities. These are the attributes and skills that I think humans need for in the age of AI. That we already have these. Most of these are already around, except perhaps number 5. These are probably new capacities, but the others exist and have existed for a while, but I think they're more important. The creative capacity, the cognitive capacity, human and social capacities, adaptive and interpersonal capacities, and AI meta-related capacities. So I'm gonna whip through these and one by one and try to explain in detail what I'm talking about here. So, creative capacity, what we generate, what we create. Creating what does not yet exist, not just remixing what already does exist. I guess you could argue that, all creativity is just remixing what's already exists. Everything's a remix. However, it is about creating original ideas, innovating, divergent thinking, designing novel, unusual solutions, thinking out of the box, framing and identifying new problems, generating an original perspective, and sustaining ideation, brainstorming without automatically going to an AI tool to help us. 1.2 is an imaginative creativity, similar to the one above, but a little bit different. It's cultivating these forging skills, such as speculating, imagining things that don't yet exist, experimenting, imagining some kind of future and testing and trialing our way towards it. Maybe have some kind of imagined future and working backwards to it, reshaping current systems. And it's developing these forging abilities. It's disrupting what is deeply entrenched with us in terms of cultural constructs. It's in imagining and negotiating alternatives, and it's developing practical skills. Integrative creativity, it's the capacity to connect with other groups of people that you might not normally connect with and synthesize information. So cross-disciplinary synthesis. I was reading a really interesting article about the future of universities, and one of the points that the author made was that in the future, universities won't be divided up into disciplines and subjects because everything will be cross-disciplinary. Everything affects each other. The humanities and the science that don't exist separately. Crossing domains in unexpected ways, connecting ideas across fields, and reframing knowledge in new contexts. Expressive creativity, the ability to communicate identity, your voice, and your aesthetic sensibility. Expressive voice, expressing your identity. Aesthetic judgment. I don't think that AI can express aesthetic judgment at the moment. I'm not sure if it ever will be able to. Maybe it will. Stylistic originality. The next capacity is cognitive capacity. This is about how we think. So this is the critical and evaluative thinking. It's evaluating AI outputs. Crucial, because of course AI hallucinates and it makes stuff up. Hallucination is just a fancy word for a mistake. It's trying to please us, so it generates something that could be probable, and that's the way the model works. It's probabilistic. It could be probable, it sounds plausible, but it just made it up. Or it could be a complete fabrication. And detecting bias, judging the evidence that AI comes up with, checking the veracity of AI outputs, triangulating the sources, consistently checking the logical consistency of work, and slow thinking and analytical reasoning, slowing down. There's, with AI, everything has become a bit of a rush, and we need to slow down and think about things more deeply. The second cognitive capacity is decision making and judgment, strategic decision making, knowing when to use AI and when not to use it, assessing the risks involved, and then exercising human override when it makes mistakes or you don't like what it's come up with. Metacognition, thinking about thinking, monitoring your thinking, knowing when you don't know something, recognize when AI assistance obscures understanding. Cognitive self-regulation and recognizing when you over-rely on AI. I think this is a danger that people are becoming more and more aware of. AI is often becoming the default mechanism when we have an issue or a problem. I was in a group of people the other day creating an exam, and someone just said immediately, "Let's ask ChatGPT," and I was like, oh. And and they went, "Oh, yeah, sorry." But it's just that automatic, default mechanism. This will save time. We can get it done real quickly. So recognizing that. Making meaning. This is about contextualizing information that we come across. What does it mean? Why is it important? How does it connect with what I already believe, what I value, and my identity, and what action should I take? Problem framing, defining problems, determining their relevance, identify the hidden assumptions behind the problem, and asking better questions. Human and social capacities is the third capacity that I've come up with. It's how we relate to each other. Communication, which was missing from the World Economic Forum lists of essential skills. I think it's key. It's key. Clarity and precision in communicating, awareness of your audience, persuading and arguing, telling stories, being active and attentive and a responsive listener, asking good questions of people and AI, explaining your reasoning, communicating when you're uncertain about something, and being transparent about how you've used AI. Collaboration, very important. Collective problem solving, building trust, resolving conflicts, negotiating with other people, and negotiating with AI. That's how I use AI. I negotiate, I collaborate, I work with AI. For example, this talk, and to go back to the previous slide, transparency about AI use. For this talk, I spent about 6 hours in February collaborating with AI. I had some ideas about what I wanted to talk about, and it was a 6 hour process to come up with this final talk. Emotional intelligence, self-awareness, regulating your own emotions and being sensitive to other people's emotions and being kind. Compassion and empathy, understanding different people's perspectives, putting yourselves into their situation. Moral imagination, visualizing the ethical action that you should take based on the information you have. And this idea of human-centered care, focusing on the individual, not just being generic. Intercultural and global literacy, cross-cultural communication, global awareness, ethical global citizenship. The fourth capacity is adaptive and intrapersonal capacities. It's how we grow and how we remain agentic. It's how we keep our agency, how we remain active and intentional, and how we have a purpose and a direction, how we make choices, how we take the initiative and exerting control over what we do and what happens. So these are interpersonal capacities. I think these could be the most important ones for our students. This idea of curiosity, having some kind of intrinsic motivation, generating questions, having an exploration mindset, that you're curious about the world. You want to see how it works, and intellectual humility. That means, knowing what you don't know and being aware of that. Adaptability and agility. I mentioned earlier this idea of agility. I think it's key. The ability to quickly learn, unlearn, and relearn things. Very important these days. Cognitive flexibility, changing your mind, and being flexible with that. For about a year and a half, I'll give an example. For about a year and a half, I was under the impression that we shouldn't really teach writing. But then I did a 180 on that. I realized that, we need to teach writing, because the purpose of writing is not to produce writing or produce an artifact. It is to learn. The purpose of writing is to learn, an openness to change. Resilience and grit. I think Angela Duckworth wrote a book called Grit. The productive struggle. It's not just instantaneous. This idea of, with AI, you can get an immediate answer. It's quick. Delayed gratification. Perseverance when you're not sure. Tolerating cognitive friction. Deep reading stamina. Self-restraint. Restraining yourself from going for the quick answer. Craftsmanship. I love that. Craftsmanship and attention to detail. Tolerance for ambiguity. Being comfortable without having all the information. Managing uncertainty. Non-binary thinking. Not everything is black and white. Being comfortable with gray areas. And courage. I heard this one. This is the one that ChatGPT came up with. Intellectual risk-taking. Ethical courage. And humor is one of the ones I came up with. I think this is important to have, to keep, to add humor, something that AI is not very good at doing. And agency and self-authorship, ownership of learning, developing your own style, making deliberate life choices, identity formation, staying in the loop, because we need humans in the loop. And lastly, AI-related capacities, how we govern intelligent systems. So everyone's pretty familiar about what AI literacy is, understanding what AI is and how it works at a functional level, how to use the AI tools, evaluating their outputs, following ethical and institutional norms, and being aware of the environmental implications of what we're doing. AI meta-literacy, which I think is probably more important than AI literacy, reflecting on when and why to use AI, regulating your reliance on it, making context-sensitive judgments, adapting practices over time, make sure that you protect learning integrity and maintain intellectual control. Ethical AI engagement, responsible use, fairness awareness, environmental awareness, academic integrity, moral reasoning. And coming towards the end now, cognitive offloading awareness. Being aware when we're outsourcing so much information that our skills are becoming weak, and developing practice with our AI so that our skills don't become weak, preserving this idea of deep work, slow learning. So in conclusion, in the age of AI, the task of education is not to compete with machines, but rather to deliberately cultivate the essential human capacities, cognitive, ethical, and relational, that prevent us from becoming machine-like ourselves, and to ensure that we remain distinctly and deliberately human. Otherwise, I'll leave that up to you. Um, Here's my second to last slide. I love this picture. I just feel like this sums up so much of where we're at these days. Here's a student, and there's this, it may not be a robot, but there's this AI tool on their shoulder 24/7 that's there helping them, guiding them. But we've got to make sure that we remain human. And there's some references as well.